I won't stop, get guap. 10 white toes and them toy flip-flops. Manicures and pedicures, I'm always tip-top. When they say I'm not hot, all these...
Good evening and welcome to Conversations with Taz. Tonight we're going to be talking about women in color and medicine, specifically what we endure when we do not receive proper care. And my guest tonight is Lizzie. Go ahead and introduce yourself, lovely.
Hey, I'm Lizzie Jackson. How you guys doing?
Now, some people are familiar with what you have recently gone through. Most people are not. So you want to bring everyone up to speed?
Yeah, what I have is like a life-term. I have cholesteatoma in my ears, and what it is like tumors that grow behind my bone in my ears. So I would need like a neurologist and an ENT to surgically remove them. And when I don't go for my surgeries, I suffer from chronic infections in my ears, so my face gets swollen and it could go to my brain. So I would have to be hospitalized to get, IVs, antibiotics through my IVs. But this time they put a PICC line in me, and they told me to leave the hospital the first time. It was horrible. My experience there, I don't ever want to go through it again. It was the worst thing I have ever experienced in my whole entire life. So what happened was I was having infection in my ear. I was having a lot of pain. I was like, I can't take this no more. I already know what the signs are. I need to go to the emergency room. I went to the emergency room. From that one hospital, they transferred me to another hospital where they had an ENT in-house, and they admitted me the same day. Now, the care that I got there was not good at all. They stuck me 9 times, blew out all 9 of my veins, and now I'm suffering with heart problems as well. The nurses pumped me full of air bubbles and everything, and they just discharged me out the hospital without any home care or anything like that. It's really hard.
Now, some may know, some may not. Lizzie is also my cousin, so this has been a hard experience for the both of us because
yeah, you were there on the phone 24/7 with me.
Now, when she first got to the ER, she waited for an incredible amount of time. At the hospital that she was originally transferred to, they had her in a room where most of the things were broken. When they sent her home prematurely without the proper care set up for her to be able to take her medications and everything at home, when she was readmitted and they realized that they should not have discharged her, the doctor did not want her discharged that night, they put her in a much better room. But before we get to that, let's talk about the night that you were discharged.
My husband was there. My husband was really agitated and he was upset, and he was like, this is way too fast. And I'm asking the nurse, I said, I don't think this is right. The doctor said once I have my home health care that I can be discharged, and that takes up like from 1 to 2 days, most 3 days to get everything set up with. And she's like, no, you're fine. It's time for you to go. You can leave. As soon as they put the PICC line in me, this is the PICC line that I have, and it goes straight to my heart. So it's right inserted in here, and it goes all the way through, and it's in my heart. So that's where the medicine goes to. I keep it covered so it doesn't get skin to skin contact, so I don't catch an infection, because it is, directed into my heart, and I'll be screwed. As soon as they put that in me, they sent me away. They was like, it's time for you to go. Everything's fine. They'll call you when everything's set up and all this stuff. And I'm like, are you sure? They're like, yeah, it's fine. They got me in a wheelchair. They brought me downstairs. My husband was like, I didn't like her. She was real ignorant and rude, and I don't think you're supposed to be discharged. They didn't give me no medicine. I didn't have, I needed this. So this is everything that I had needed. So this is a blood thinner that I take, right? Then these are solutions that I have to put into my IV. This is the last thing that I have to put. Okay, and then this is the antibiotics that I needed. So you crack this thing right there, you fill this up, you wet it all, you shake it up, and then you turn it upside down, and you put it into the IV and connect it all to here. But I didn't have none of this, and it's really important that I don't skip my medicines because the infection can get worse. That sets me back. But the nurses didn't give me anything at all. Nothing. Nothing. I had to go back the next day and I found out that I needed to be readmitted. And I literally, you were on the phone with me. I broke down and I
Because
was
they
crying.
didn't give discharge papers at first, correct?
No, they didn't give no discharge papers, no nothing. My husband had to go back and get the discharge papers. And I'm like, well, where's the doctors? Where's all the information? Who's going to contact me? Who do I have to call? Oh, everything's going to be taken care of. They're going to call you. They're going to call you. Okay, they're going to call you. It's okay. It's all good. You're good. They're going to call you. I've never heard that in my life. I've never, usually you get papers and it tells you this medicine, this medicine, this medicine, the numbers of who's going to call you, who's going to send you the money, the specialist on it. I didn't have none of that. Nothing. I didn't have no pain pills. I didn't have no antibiotics. I didn't have my prednisone. I didn't have none of that. So it was just the worst experience for me.
And then when you were readmitted, you went through a completely different entrance of the hospital, right?
Yeah, it was a rich area. When we went into the entrance where I was discharged from. Then they put me in a wheelchair. No, I'm lying to you. I walked to the emergency room because they said you have to go in through the emergency room to get readmitted. And by this time, I'm freaking out. I'm crying. They put me in a dirty room with blood. And I sent you the pictures. Remember when I was talking to you? I was like, there's blood all over this. And I was like, there was a paper saying that the room was for highly infected people. And I'm like, bro, is this room even clean? Like, why do you have this up here? I'm freaking out. I'm panicking. I didn't even want to sit on the bed. The head charge nurse came in and he was like, we'll get this all cleaned up. I was like, it was supposed to be cleaned up. And then they were like, before they put me in a room, they couldn't find me in the system. Everything was jumbled. Everything was messed up. And then they were like, I don't know what's going on here. You know, I was never supposed to be discharged. It was just a big mess. I felt like I was in a nightmare on Elm Street, to be honest with you. I'm not even gonna lie. So they put me in a dirty room. The head charge nurse came in and he apologized to me 1,000 times. The doctor finally came down, apologized to me and said this should have never happened. Everybody came to my room apologizing to me about what had happened and what I went through. And the lady who tried to come to take my blood because they needed blood and everything, because they can't take anything out the PICC line. She looked at my arms and she was like, what did they do to you? I said, yes. They got me 9 times. They pumped me full of air bubbles. I don't feel right. They had to do chest x-ray. They had to do EKG. They had to do everything on me. It was crazy. It was crazy. Then finally, they brought me upstairs to a whole different part of the hospital. And it was a rich person's wing. I had a whole room to myself. This room had a safe in it, a refrigerator, anything. The nurses were trying to put socks on me and all. Like, I was just in a whole nother world. I was in a whole nother world. I didn't know that existed there. They knew they messed up.
Oh, severely messed up. And the second time that you were there, you finally were visited by an executive from the hospital, correct?
Yes. He came in the next day. He came in and he said, hi, my name is such and such. And I'm the chief of the chief of the hospital. And I'm looking at him and I'm like, okay. And he was like, may I please sit down? I'm like, okay. And I'm just like confused. Remember, I'm in pain. I can't barely hear. And he sits down and he's apologizing to me. He's turning all types of different colors. And I'm just looking at him like, why are you here? I'm like, you know what your staff did to me, right? And he's like, you don't have to worry about that. You know, I'm going to take care of all that. I'm truly sorry for what they did to you. This should have never happened. And it was a lot. It was a lot. And I tell you, it was a lot. It was a lot. He was apologizing to me. He even offered to bring me food from the outside because he said he knows the hospital food sucks. He was like, whatever you need, whatever you want, let me know. I'm like, wow, only if they treated everybody like this, huh?
Yep.
Only if they treated everybody like that. But yeah, he knew he messed up. He spent you were on the phone with me. You were hearing what he was saying. You heard everything that he said.
Because they had an entire staff meeting with the higher ups of the hospital regarding the poor treatment, the improper discharge, the improper bedside manner?
He said I was the talk of the hospital. He was like, "Oh, your name is coming up. Your name is all over the place. That's why everybody kept on coming to my room."
Yeah. We do have a question. Where did this happen? What state are you in?
I'm in Florida. It happened in JFK Hospital. Yeah. So he was like turning red, blue. He started sweating. I mean, he looked sincere. Here in North Florida, they don't do anything involved with the heart without a cardiologist involved.
Correct.
Yeah. But at that point in time, I didn't know anything was wrong with my heart.
And the original EKG that they gave you, if I'm correct, only lasted a few moments, right?
No, not even moments. It was like 3 seconds. They hooked me up. It was 1, 2, 3, and boom, it was done. It was over with. Everything's fine. There's nothing wrong with you. And I'm telling them I can't breathe. I'm short of breath and I'm having pain in my heart. So they lied to me on that. That's another lie that they did.
And also, you recently had to go back to the ER, and that's when you found out that there was issues in your heart. And you want to describe what caused you to go back to the hospital and what they told you, because you went to a completely different facility then.
I did. I had a doctor's appointment yesterday early in the morning. So I went to go see my doctor. And as I'm sitting there, I'm trying to have a conversation with my doctor and tell my doctor everything that's going on. So I can't really breathe. And I'm like, I'm having pain in my heart and it shoots down my arm, my left arm, and I can't breathe right. And thank God they have a EKG in there. So I'm laying there, and for about I think maybe 5 to 10 minutes, I'm laying there. They're taking the EKG of my heart. And I'm like, look, I'm feeling it right now. So when everything was done and over with, the doctor came in and she said, there's something wrong with your heart. You have, your heartbeat isn't right. You have extra heartbeats in it. And that's what you're feeling. And if it gets any worse, you need to go to the emergency room. So on the way home, I couldn't breathe even more. And I'm having difficulty breathing. Like right now, I can't breathe. So I'm driving home and I said, you know what? This is too much. I need to go to the emergency room. So I went to another emergency room. I didn't go back to the place where they messed me up. Now, I get into the emergency room. I tell them everything that's going on with me. I explain my chest pain, my shortness of breath. They hooked me up to an EKG. They took chest x-ray. First, they thought it was the PICC line that's in my arm, because they said if the PICC line is touching the heart, it makes your heart flutter and it makes it feel weird. So they did the chest x-ray. The PICC line is in the perfect place. There's nothing wrong with it. And I said, so why am I feeling this pain like if I'm catch a heart attack, like something stabbing me? They hooked me up to the EKG. The doctor's talking to me. As he's talking to me, I'm like, oh, and he's like, yeah, I just saw it. My heart is really off rhythm. Really off rhythm. And they got into the cardiologist there, and he said, they did blood work. They checked my excuse me, I'm sorry.
Take your time.
My white blood cells are higher because I do have an infection. They checked me for if I'm dehydrated. I'm not dehydrated. There's nothing.
Your volume is down. Still can't hear you.
I'm back.
Okay, there you go.
Let me exit. You can hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Sorry, that was the group chat. But so they checked my blood work. Nothing's wrong with my blood. They're worried about blood clots because remember, when they took my IV, when they gave me the IVs, all of my veins right here, you can still see the bruise that I have. They poked that's one of the main arteries that they wasn't supposed to put it in. Then they gave me 3 over here, then 1 over here on this side. Then they gave me over here as well. Then behind my hands. Now every IV that they gave me, they blew out my veins. So now I have to worry about blood clots. Not only do I have to worry about blood clots, but I have to worry about all the air bubbles that they put in me. And that can cause problems with your heart. So as I'm in the emergency room, I'm explaining this to them. And they're really worried. They try to keep me. I was like, I was like, I'm not doing this hospital thing again. So by tomorrow, if this medicine doesn't help me, I don't know. It's a beta blocker, they said. So it's supposed to slow down my heart and help me put it in check. But so far, it's not working. So they said if the pain in my chest gets worse and if I can't breathe, then I have to go to the emergency room and they will be keeping me. So that's that's it right there. Until the 29th, I go see cardiologist. Have you reported them? Yes, I made a formal complaint. I was there today. I spoke to the head of the hospital. Even the CEO knows me, which is mind-boggling because she's really extremely. She was pissed. She was really, she was really pissed. And the whole staff is fired. And I'm like, that's not good enough. I could have caught an infection in my heart. I could have died. Like anything could have happened. I have 3 kids. The guy was nice. We had a conversation earlier, and I told him I will be pursuing legal action. And he says, I feel you. He says, I understand, and I agree with you. And I have to wait for a week to get the paperwork and everything. So he said, whatever he can do, he's gonna do it. But I showed him my EKGs. I showed him the heart medicine. I showed him where I'm going to and everything like that. And, we're going from there. We're going to see what's going to happen from there.
Now, as horrific as it is what happened to you, I know we're all just grateful that you're here for us to even have this conversation, because we know all too often people don't walk out of the hospital, just like the tragedy regarding 4-year-old Naeem, where he didn't receive proper care and he is now with the ancestors. But to many people watching, this is shocking.
Scary.
Oh my God, I can't believe this happens, but it happens more than not. And even when we were comparing the first hospital room that you were in with the second, we both stated that this is why there's certain members of society that don't believe us, because they're going in getting the best of the best. They're not seeing where they're sending us. They're not seeing how we are being treated, so they can't fathom it. They can't fathom that there are hospitals that literally have 2 different sides, 2 different emergency rooms, 2 different entrances.
Yeah, it was a whole different entrance. Like they had valet, they had all this. It was in there. Hello, sir. How you doing? It was just a whole different world. Even the waiting room was different. You have your machines. You have if you needed a microwave, they brought you a microwave. It was a safe. Who needs a safe in a hospital? I had 2 shower heads. 2 shower heads.
And a massaging bed.
Oh, yes, and a massaging bed. I forgot about that. And a pull-out couch. I had a pull-out couch. I had a massaging bed. I had a rocking chair that also reclined, a safe. I had the best view. The food, the menu was even different. Remember when I showed you the menu? The menu was different. Everything was different. Everything. Even the treatment was different. They're trying to put socks on me and bathe me. Like, no, I don't need that.
And we do have a question. I would report outside the hospital, Joint Commissions of Hospitals, is what Emily stated.
Joint Commissions of Hospitals? I'm going to have to do that.
And Maudie says, not shocking at all, just mad it happened to Lizzie. I've seen firsthand how they treat minorities, which is true, especially women of color. It's more so us than anyone else. They are still under that historically racist ideal that because we are BIPOC, that we don't feel pain the same, that our bodies work different than every other woman on the planet, that we're lying about needing treatment, that we're going in for pain pills. And it's like, we are not at the top of the echelon for opioid abuse. We are not. And that's why I did a whole show and had the people on the panel that I did, because so many people associate addictions and drug abuse simply with BIPOC. But we have another one.
Yeah. Remember when they was...
How many times a week does the nurse visit you?
She comes in whenever I need, but she's like here like maybe two times. She's a sweetheart. She's a Cuban. So if I ever need her, she always answers the phone. Like I know what I'm doing. She comes in to clean. She'll change my bandages. She'll make sure everything is good. So it's like, I try not to bother her too much. If I have any problems, then I'll call her and she comes over. But yeah, she's amazing. She's amazing. But yeah, remember when they kept trying to give me Percocet and I can't take Percocet and they didn't have the allergic bandage on my hand and they kept
Mm-hmm.
trying to give me Percocet. I was like, I can't take Percocet. I don't take it. And I'm arguing with the nurse. And she's like, well, you need it. I'm like, no, I don't need it. I can't take that. You're trying to make me sick. And it's crazy. Okay, I want to make this very clear. Hold on. Yeah. Yeah, that happens. That happens.
They do. A lot of white nurses and doctors, I've said it before, let me say it again. What the police department is to men of color is what the medical field is to women of color. They may take an oath, but they forget the oath when they see our faces.
Yep.
They don't care. Does that mean every single one of them? No. But too many of them. There are too many individuals that are just ingrained with racist ideals and ideologies that choose professions that have them dealing with the general public. And if you are a racist individual, you don't need to be around the general public. Pick something in the private sector where you can pick and choose who you deal with to stop putting people in jeopardy.
Yep. It's crazy.
Oh, Marty, you make
It's
a great
crazy.
point. They tried to take her rights away and deem her incompetent. I've seen that.
They did that to my Mima.
I've had that happen to myself. But let me also interject this, because a lot of people think things like this only happen once you get to the doctor's office or once you get to the hospital. In my experience, I and an ex of mine, well, the ex had to argue with EMTs to put me in the ambulance to get me to the hospital, and I couldn't breathe. They did not bring a stretcher to me. They did not give me any assistance. They literally wanted me, as I'm grabbing my chest, gasping for air, to walk down 2 flights of steps across the courtyard and into the middle of the street to get into the back of the ambulance. We get to the hospital and they tell the nurse that they believe that I am faking it. The nurse takes one look at me and is like, no, she filed a complaint, rushes into me with the doctor. And it was so bad that the first thing the doctor said was, does she have a religious preference? Because at that point, they weren't certain if they could save me. Thank God I went from piss poor EMTs to caring qualified medical profession. Because if I would have got piss poor EMTs and piss poor care, I wouldn't be here. But they don't care. And before that, I spent quite a few hours in an ER where they prescribed migraine medication when my entire body hurt. At the end of the day, my body was turning septic. And I was about to go into septic shock, the same thing that killed the creator of the Muppets. And they would have just been like, oh, we didn't know. She didn't tell us. You okay? Let's see.
Yeah, because they don't care.
On the other side of the table, facing the same treatment that they give to, yes, they do.
Yeah, they do. They really do. I'm going to tell you guys, I want to make this very clear. Everybody's like, well, I would have done this in this situation. I would have done. Let me tell you something. I'm very outspoken. Okay. I'm very outspoken. But when you're alone, you're in pain and you can barely even like think straight, you wouldn't know what to do in that situation. I was by myself and I'm telling the nurse nicely, please don't put air bubbles in my thing. Please don't do this. Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. You're not certified. I've been in and out of hospital since I was 5 years old. I've been going through surgeries in and out. I'm pretty educated in IV stuff. You're not supposed to put air bubbles in your, and the air bubbles were like that big. No exaggeration, that big. And it's like, I told her, I was like, can you please not do that? Because I'm not stupid. I know they have my life in their hands. So why am I going to argue with them? but I'm asking them nicely. But when you're weak, you're not feeling good, and you could barely even talk because you're in so much pain. You're alone. You are legit alone. Who are you gonna call for? The other nurses, they all stick together. They don't care about you. And you know how many times I pushed the call button? I pushed it so many times they would make me wait an hour to come to my room. An hour. And I would only call them if I really needed it. An hour.
And it got so bad, not to make light of the situation, but a dear friend of Lizzie's and mine was joking like, Taz, why are you making people afraid and you're a couple of steps away? Because I got so frustrated that one doctor and two nurses that came into her room and we were on FaceTime and I was like, turn the camera around.
Mm-hmm. I remember that.
And I was like, she needs this, 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 and this. If she doesn't get it, I'm showing up. Then all of a sudden it was, oh, do you need more of this? Do you need this? You want me to get this for you? How's your pain level? Because the moment that they realize you're not alone and that people are checking up on you, they will do better, but they won't do the best that they can do. They set the bar so low to us that it's like nothing else matters to them.
I didn't even have a shower in my bathroom.
That they think that they won't get reported because they also assume that we're either stupid or we don't have the resources to protect our rights. And you know what, Lizzie, you are correct, because the very first hospital room that she was in, there was no shower.
You couldn't wash your booty or anything. It's like
clean herself. It was basically like an outpatient room where you go in for outpatient surgery and you go home, where it's not meant to stay in. Why would you put them in? And when they first sent her home, they said, and I quote, "We need the bed." What is more important, taking care of a sick patient that you took an oath to do, or opening up a bed in a room where the vast majority of the things are broken and there is no shower?
It was horrible. It was horrible. It was horrible. My goodness. I was not comfortable. I could, me and you was on the phone. If I wasn't on the FaceTime with you, I was FaceTime with my husband. My husband was even freaking mad. He would come every day to bring me food, to bring me, I had to take, a whole bath. Like, you remember that? It was,
oh my God.
It was like, yeah, well, you're not allowed to take a shower. I'm like, I'm not allowed to take a what? You gonna tell me I can't wash my butt? Yeah, you crazy. Okay. We'll see about this. Disgusting. It was disgusting. I don't ever want to experience that again. Like I told the guy, I said, I will never come back to your hospital. God forbid. If anything should happen to me, I told my husband, I was like, you better make sure they don't take me back to JFK. And I told him that today. I was like, you traumatized the shit out of me. You legit traumatized me to the point where I am literally terrified to go to a hospital now. And mind you, I've been in and out of hospitals my whole life. I've experienced racism and people talking about, oh, she's only here for drugs. Well, my face is like this big, but I'm here for drugs. Plus, it's coming out of my ears. My whole face, you remember how swollen my stuff was.
Yep.
And it was all white women. All white women. So, I mean, this time, I think that it happened to me for a reason, because somebody would have been killed.
Oh, definitely. And somebody else would have just been like, oh, this is just how it's supposed to go. I'm not going to complain about it. I'll just go with the flow. And you can't. And that's also what frustrates me a lot, when people do speak up and you have people come in comments or face to face and tell them, well, that's just how it happens. That's just how it is. Okay, it's how it is until we speak up to change it. If we cannot get comfortable with being mistreated.
Yeah, you can't do it.
Because sometimes we have to turn into a Karen. Because Karens aren't out here getting mistreated, because they're going to speak up. And the more silent we stay, the more Lizzies there will be, the more Naeems there will be, the more Tazes they will be. And we're fortunate that we're able to walk out of the situation. Think of the countless others that haven't. And for those that may be doubting exactly how bad it's gotten, when they have to write an entire book called Medical Apartheid to explain the treatment, it's bad. But let's bring in another guest, DMAC. He's going to tell us how his mother was treated by healthcare professionals. The floor is yours.
Hey, cousin.
Hey, cuz. Yeah, I just got out of my class, so yeah. So my mom, now this was about two and a half months ago. She went to the hospital because she had to have a surgery to remove the diverticulitis. I hope I'm saying that right. If I'm not, I'm sorry. And they had to. At this particular point, the medicine wasn't doing anything, and the doctor was like, "Yeah, we just got to take this out." So fine. Now, the way they had explained it to us, they would cut open where it was, and after all that, they would do some it'll do it laparoscopically, so there wasn't that much scarring. When I tell you that my mother came home with a hole like this,
Jesus,
in her stomach, and you're expecting me to change the bandage, clean the area, change the bandaging, and just consistently do that every day. I have no medical knowledge. I have not been to medical school. I have no clue what I'm doing.
And it's that right there. They play us like we're stupid, but then send us home to be our own Nurse Ratched.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're stupid, but we're supposed to learn everything that you spent years and years in school and in practice doing, just like that.
But wait,
and then get it wrong, they blame you.
So then,
oh yeah, that's why they do it.
So then, to go even further, now, when she had just had she had the surgery, she was back home. Then, I want to say maybe about a week later, she's having pain. She's not eating. She's going through. She wasn't throwing up, but it was just really, really painful for her. And so she winds up going back into the hospital after just coming out. And when I tell you, me and my sister, because, still COVID restrictions at this time, so you really couldn't go in like how you can maybe go in now as the COVID restrictions have lessened.
Yeah.
But we were trying to contact her. We were trying to do this. Come to find out, they gave her Dilaudid, and she lost 3 days.
Oh, my God.
She still doesn't know what happened during those 3 days.
Oh, my God.
They seem to do that to us a lot. But Marty wants to know, did they put a colostomy bag?
Colostomy bag?
On her.
No, thankfully, she doesn't need it. Thankfully, they were able to not have to give her one. Thank God for that, because I don't know how she would have felt about that. Like, she probably would have said, just no. If I don't ever poop again, it'll just never happen. But thankfully, she's going regularly. And where it was in a place where it wouldn't have affected that. So thank God for that. But it was just ridiculous because they kept prescribing the wound vac and kept basically circle venting. Oh, well, the doctor didn't sign off on this and the insurance didn't sign off on that. And I'm just like, look, my mother is suffering. You need to handle up and do your job. Because it's not my job at the insurance, and it's not my job at the doctor's office to get it into the doctor's hands to sign off on it so that you can get it to the insurance so that she can have it so she can get better. It's not my job. I don't work for these people. You work for these people. I swear to God, if anything had happened to her, y'all would have seen me on the news. I would have had to call Taz, be like, yo, I need you to bail me out. I need you to bail me out.
My husband was snapping.
Yeah, I'm gonna need you to
But
bail
you
me
know
out.
what else I understand? A lot of people, BIPOC people, Dilaudid seems to be what they give us a lot, whether we need it or not.
Or Percocet. They love giving Percocets for some reason. I don't know why.
And it's like, why? Why must you continue? Like, too many people in preparing for this show and then talking to people on various levels, Dilaudid and Percocets came up a lot. And most people had the same experience that your mother had, DMAC, was that they lost time, which still freaks them out to this day. One individual that I talked to that just wasn't comfortable speaking on air because she did wage a complaint. She did sue the hospital that screwed her over, and they weren't as helpful as the people that are working with Lizzie, and she's just terrified to say anything else on camera. But she said from time to time now she'll get bits and pieces that just pop up. Like she can fall asleep and a bit from when she was in the hospital will pop up and just take her back to that space. But
like the Sunday that my sister had to, because this is when she was working in New York, because she was a traveling chef leaving here and going to New York for 10 days. The Sunday that she had left, they had finally allowed us to talk to her, and she was out of it. She couldn't even understand what we were saying. Like, she knew who we were, but she couldn't even have a conversation.
It's crazy. They weren't trying to let my husband in. They weren't trying to let my husband into the room with me or anything. Like, are you serious right now? You gave me a COVID test. I mean, everybody else had their family there, and they wouldn't let my husband come in to see me.
So here's what I did. But after that disastrous, and I stress the word, we were in literal tears, me and my sister, because we were just like, we were so worried about what was going on because we couldn't go. Like, the hospitals were like persona non grata for like 13 days, like 8 days, I think it was. So I called the doctor after my sister. So both me and my sister called them. And I said, you need to tell me what's going on right now. I need to know what's going on with my mother because I have not been able to be there, talk to her, or do anything else with regards to her health. So if you're not willing to tell me what's going on, I need to speak to the next person in the chain of command because I'm not going to sit here. I'm telling you right now, I will march past every last piece of security, knock them the heck out until I get to her room. So you need to tell me what's going on because I've already lost my father. I will not lose her. It's not going to happen. So you need to tell me what's going on. Oh, well, Mr. Winston, it's funny how when you have to, no offense, use your Karen powers for good and come out and come after them because only then does it click into their brain. Oh, well, this person is concerned. Duh, I'm concerned. Hello, grasp the concept. If this was your mother on the table, wouldn't you be doing the same thing? But then we can't talk about some people. But let me not go off there.
We're concerned. I think they're finally remembering that we're human. Because let me tell you all,
or that we're not going to take a no easily. We're going to fight you on it because that's what I had to do. I said I will take out all these IVs that I have in me and I will walk the fuck out. Like, don't play with me. My husband needs to come upstairs. You know,
but see,
I'm look.
Here's one thing. Y'all better pay close attention because this is the one and only time I am saying this publicly or privately because I don't speak on this, but it is relevant. Many know, some don't, that in 2008, my mother passed away of cancer. A year and a day before that, her father died. A year and a day before that, my paternal grandfather died, all of cancer. My mother was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. They put her on a regimen of medication. She had to go in to get blood work every 4 weeks. Let me repeat that. Had to go in to get blood work every 4 weeks. Then one day, something was a little off with my mom. I was dropping the kids off so she could babysit them. We always had coffee together before I went to work. The house was quiet. And then I just heard, so I ran back. My mother's lung had collapsed. I was at a hospital at the time. I had to call 911. I'm trying to give her CPR and everything to keep her breathing. They take her to the hospital that I work in. I had contacted my boss, like, look, this is what happened. They said, don't worry about clocking in. We'll get her together. They put her on my floor so that, because they knew me, they knew that I was going to slip away to go see her. And then she had what are called blebs on her lungs. They went through, did the surgery. Once again, whole nother round of blood work. Then my mother calls all of us to her house. She had cancer, not stage 1, not stage 2, not stage 3, stage 4. Now, how somebody who has had blood work every 4 weeks and a recent round of blood work end up with stage 4 cancer in her lungs, in her liver, and in her brain, and no one determined it. It was so severe that she had to take a chemo pill, go in for chemotherapy, and take radiation.
Questionable.
The medicine that they give you for rheumatoid arthritis causes cancer. Cancer gives you rheumatoid arthritis, so you are stuck in a cycle, and they don't tell you this. It got to the point where the pain was so severe and the medicine had deteriorated my mother so much that by the time she got proper care is when we had hospice nurses, and it was only because myself, my granny, my aunt, a neighbor that I will forever be grateful to were in the house to watch over them, and I was now in charge of her medication, and I kept a log. That my mother finally looked at me one night, and I knew the look. We had gone over all of her stuff. She did not want to die in my house, so I had to call hospice, and she didn't even make it 24 hours. But they had let my mother go a year and a half, taking this medication, taking her blood, and not saying a word. Well, when they first detected it, if they would have said that,
your mother would still be here today.
Yep. And I'm so sorry you had to go through that, for real. Because
if they wouldn't have done that, my mother would have been able to see not just her grandchildren graduate from high school, but see my kids graduate from college and see my grandbabies and how amazing they are. I have a nephew.
Mm-hmm.
He was so young when my mother passed away. He doesn't remember who she is. That's what they don't realize that they take away from us. I have had to go through things that I should not have had to go through without my mother. I get to watch racist white men and women disrespect their mothers every single day.
Can we talk about that?
And I can't even sit back and touch my mother because someone didn't see her as human.
Yeah, it's a shame. Like, look at this. I have to take these beta blockers, and I don't even know if I have this heart issue for the rest of my life now. I can't walk. I can't walk fast. I can't do anything. I can't play with my daughter. I could barely even talk. Whenever I do talk, I get pain and I can't breathe. I can't do nothing. I am literally on bed rest. I cannot be stressed, because if I get stressed, I can get a heart attack. Anything. I went in with no heart problems. None. And I'm coming out with now heart problems.
I was on the phone with Lizzie. Lizzie got up to make a sandwich because we both realized we had not eaten and we needed to before we got on here. And her standing still, everything was on her counter, just putting together the sandwich. I had to keep telling her, breathe, take a break, breathe, because she gets so winded now.
I can't even do anything. I cannot. I'll be laying in my bed, Taz. You know this, when we be on the phone. And I'm laying in the bed. I won't be saying nothing. And all of a sudden, I just can't breathe. And it's hard. It's like somebody's just sucking all the air, like just crushing your chest. And your heart's being stabbed. And they said I was crazy in the hospital. There's nothing wrong with your heart. You're perfectly fine.
On my birthday, and nobody was taking me seriously. And then I ended up with no voice and barely able to do anything because they just won't take us seriously. It is as if they have
to the hospital
in their head that we can't get sick.
Oh, I got one better for you. Almost 2 years ago, I don't know what I was doing or what had happened, Well, I probably know what happened. I was probably working out too hard, and I pulled something. So finally, the pain had just gotten to be too much for the Tylenol, Advil, and whatever else I was taking to even just self-medicate myself. So I took my country behind to the ER, and they're like, "Oh, well, there's nothing we can really give you. So we can either give you a shot, or we can you can just go home and take these. I suggest you take the go home." So then
Sounds like what
so
they did to me before too.
so then to add on to that, whatever they gave me did not work. I think it was Percocet. Still didn't work. And then I had to wind up back again. And then at that time, when I tell you I was using, those broomsticks that you can unscrew?
Yeah.
Like you unscrew it?
Yeah.
I was using that to just hold myself up. It was that bad. I could not walk. It was so bad. I was like my whole entire right side was just like inordinate pain. And you know what? And then here's was the kicker that literally made me just like want to slap every ER doctor in the history of doctors. I went to my doctor because I finally just had it. And I was like, I'm not going back there to pay this inordinate bill.
Yeah.
And you know what my doctor did? Now, keep in mind, he's a person of color. He's from India. So he's a person of color. So he takes 5 minutes, literally 5 minutes. He looks at me, feels my back. Oh, here's the problem. Your muscles are inflamed. And right now it's pinching your back. And that's why you can't walk. Nobody said that in the ER.
Nope, because they didn't care. They didn't even care to look. I bet you they didn't even care to look.
But for
I
those
didn't even get an X-ray.
Yeah. For those watching, let me give you a prime example of how historical and how ancestral this is. You all remember John Rolfe. He was married to, well, they claimed married to a certain native girl. She was a girl, and people
Gloss
disrespect
over that fact.
the wrong name, so we're not even going to go there.
Yep.
What people don't know is that he brought another woman, black woman, around that they ended up calling Go-Go. As more slaves were being brought into the area, because she had helped cultivate the first profitable crop of tobacco within the United States, they touted her as never being able to get sick because she was black. Not because she was cleaning herself, but just because she was black. And because so many indigenous people started making a joke, and so did other enslaved people, going, "Oh, there were 10 white people here last winter, and they only produced 2 children. They doubled by 2." But they're like, Go-Go has children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. And it was so ingrained in the minds of colonizers that this woman was surviving and her family was flourishing just because they were black. When the practice of gynecology was being cultivated, invented, if you will, it was black women that were being experimented on because we, quote unquote, don't feel pain. And there are still nursing books and medical books to this day that break it down and say that to treat an indigenous person, you need to get, this is their word, not mine, a shaman to come in first. But you don't have to completely clean the room because they like to be close to nature. That black people don't feel pain the way other ones do. Like, they break it down. It's disgusting. But this is,
they also have the Latina women are over exaggerators. They literally teach this in their classes.
And this is how far back it goes and how ingrained it is. That's why things like critical race theory and the 1619 Project need to be put into the school system on all levels, not just in primary school, not just in middle school, not just in high school, on all levels. Because in case it missed you in primary, middle, or high school, It needs to catch you in college. It needs to be incorporated in these free classes that a lot of these corporations give to better their employees.
Those diversity classes
Oh,
are
yes,
just
Jessica.
trash.
I'm going to get onto Henrietta, but let me break down Henrietta Lacks also. Henrietta Lacks was sick, tried to go to a predominantly white hospital in her area. She was denied. She went to a predominantly black hospital, and they took her cells because when they put it under a microscope, they realized what her cells were doing. Instead of trying to save her life with the same cells that they stole from her, they went on to save the lives of the white people she couldn't be in the bed next to, but you could take her DNA and put it in them. And to this day, they are still using the HeLa genes, Henrietta Lacks genes, and they even use them to create the precious COVID-19 vaccine that everybody is arguing about. And this is why I say in every aspect of life, it is important to know where everything and everyone has been so you know where you stand and you know where you need to go. Because if you do not understand the history, you will not understand today and you will be trapped from moving forward to the future. Because how you gonna know where you're going if you ain't never knew where you've been?
Excuse me. Yep.
That's why the United States keeps repeating everything, because it has yet to face its history, because it has yet to learn its true history.
They don't want to, because then they would have to admit that they're wrong and that they were foul.
They don't care.
That too.
They don't care.
It's no different than the fact that they will teach you about the Mayflower and praise the Mayflower. But let's go back a year before the Mayflower. Anybody heard of the White Lion ship or the Treasurer? Because in 1619, that's when the first crop of enslaved Black people came to the United States, well before the Mayflower. So when you want to talk about the foundation of the United States and the foundation of medicine within the United States, put some respect on BIPOC people. Put some respect on our names.
Yeah.
Because without us,
and you know what's crazy?
You wouldn't have vaccinations. You wouldn't be washing your ass. You wouldn't have surgery. If you had a heart attack, you'd be SOL. You wouldn't be able to have blood transfusions. There's so much you
It's
wouldn't
just
have.
crazy because if I tell this story,
us, or we just had to do it in order to survive what the colonizers brought. Because let's not forget, the colonizers have a bad history of rape and bestiality. I said what I said. Encyclopedias still exist. Google, Bing, and Firefox are free. Argue with your ancestors about it, not mine. Get your Ouija board out and argue with them.
Now, cousin, if I was to tell this story to a white person, they would look at me like if I'm crazy. If I wasn't on the phone with you, and you know what? And it's crazy because even some of our own people don't believe it. Some of our own people, you're over exaggerating, like that. It's their job to take care of you. You know.
Well, see, we had to.
And I was hesitant to post anything about it because.
Remember when we had to explain to him because she was in awe. It wasn't that she wasn't believing us. She was in awe that she was sitting there like, damn, my friend is going through this, and she couldn't understand why. And I calmly told her, I said, I hate to say it, but we're used to it. We know that even while sick, you can't be 100% sick because you have to keep your wits about you to make sure you're taken care of. And that's part of the reason why we're not taken seriously, because no matter how much pain we're in, you could be doubled over. You know, you got to push yourself back up and be like, I need X.
She was in shock.
You got to suck it in to get proper treatment. But if we were white, and especially white women, we could go in and fall out on the floor and they will figure out what's wrong with Susie Q.
Exactly. And she was shocked. Did you see her face? She was shocked and said, she was like, what? But because somebody that she loves is going through this now, it opened up her eyes. And she's like, wow. She's like, I can't believe this. I've never seen this in my life. I've never heard of this. I'm like, yeah, because you get treated different. You know,
but I am glad that this mutual friend is taking a journey and is well on her way to become a medical professional. And now she knows what not to do. And she's willing to speak up. She's not one of those toe the line because we're co-workers, we're both doctors, I'm going to cover for you type of people. And now she's like, okay, I'm about to begin clinical. She now knows what to look out for, what not to do.
Mhm.
And see, this is what we need. This is what needs to honestly happen, because it's just tiring. It's literally tired. I was literally going through it
Mhm.
when my mom, and I'm just like, why should we have to fight this hard just to be treated as a human fucking being? It is
They
not that
treat
hard to
animals
be
better
human.
than they do us. That's what's crazy. We are not even seen as animals. Animals get the best treatment.
Oh yeah, because if you kill an animal, all white people will unite to make sure you're up under the prison. But you kill a black person, especially a black woman, they're like,
What?
what did she do? Oh, she should have had regular doctor's
So it makes
appointments.
you think, how do they don't even, it's crazy because if they don't see us as animals and they don't see us as humans, what do they see us as?
Animals.
Well, it goes back to this.
No, they don't see us as animals.
No, it goes back to the racial
They
trope,
treat animals better than they do.
but it goes back to the historically racial trope of polygenicism, where they believe each race is a different species. Now, do they consider every one of those species human?
Oh yeah,
No.
that's right. Yeah, that's right.
So they consider us to be a different species. Just like I read something very powerful for the Saturday book club. I'm sorry I had to pause because y'all know I have different books for different classes, different book club. And this Saturday we're beginning 400 Souls. And there was one person who submitted an insert talking about their biracial heritage. And she said something that really struck me. She said, my mother is white, but I am black, because white cannot be broken into percentages. Either you're pure or you're just not white.
That's facts. Like all these racial
Country, that's what
that
they
we
look
have.
at. They look at protecting the purity of whiteness, and they don't see any purity or any salvation in anything else. Why do you think so many racists claim that the United States is a Christian nation? Way back when they were beginning to colonize this country, one of the first racial things that they said was that white people were Christians and black BIPOC people were savages. That's why they say you got to pay attention to the key words that they say that are steeped in racism. That's why they say America is a Christian nation, because they're still saying that only pure white people can be close to God.
You know what?
Yeah, that's true.
I'm gonna say this, and I'm sorry, cuz I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry, but I'm gonna say this. I want every last white person in this country to take the motherfucking test. Take it.
Thank you.
Take it.
You talking about that one drop rule? Once you get that one drop, quit calling yourself Anglo. Well, they don't.
What?
First of all, Caucasians are not white. Please stop calling yourself Caucasian. You are Anglo-Saxon. That's why I say you have the Anglo audacity, because you're not Caucasian.
Wait, D-Mac.
The mountains of Caucasus, and they were not white people. They were not clear. We cannot see their organs beating to their skin as we can you Anglo-Saxons. Sorry to my good accomplice Anglo-Saxons, but the truth is the truth, baby. We can see if you all right. We can look right at you. Like, yeah, her heart working all right. We can see that shit. But yeah.
Like the Rachel, what I said, the Rachel Dolazols.
That's why I always say the Rachel Dolezal of it all.
Because I'm just like this girl literally was arguing.
They have nothing.
They have nothing but the audacity.
Last names are a thing. I was married most of my life with the last name Martinez. First kid I had there was four women in the what?
In the maternity wing. It was even people in the hallway. Yes, I have. Ooh, you know what, Jessica? I'm glad.
How many last names do we have?
Oh my God. Many years ago, I used to volunteer at this place in Cincinnati, Ohio, helping people like that have never worked on a computer before, that may have had one job, the job shut down, they need to get a new job, whatever, teaching computer skills, helping people with resumes. There was one day I didn't feel well, and I went to the head of voluntary services, and I was like, I know I volunteered for these hours. I think I should go home. I'm feeling really weird. And they were like, okay, can you just finish up with the person that you have? that gives me 5 minutes to pull somebody else downstairs. I said, okay. I walked back over before I could sit down. This is what I was told because I do not remember this. I keeled over and had a seizure. The one saving grace, someone that I went to high school with, and no, I was not embarrassed because this gentleman was always a good man. When I came to, he looked at me and he said, Taz, you're safe. You're in good hands. When I got to the hospital, they had me in the hallway. I had just had a seizure and hit my head hard on the floor because, of course, I'm not conscious to put my hands down to stop. Mm-hmm. And that's what people were most concerned about. When my father, actually, my granny made it there first. Okay. Mi abuela made it there well before my daddy did. My daddy came. Now, my granny, many, many years, worked as a surgical tech in the hospital, very well versed. I didn't know because I was still coming to. The side of my head was bleeding. They still had me in the hallway. And
you know that happens.
He came to see me while my granny was standing there. All he asked me was, well, what medicine does your doctor have you prescribed? I just had a seizure. I can't think of a medication. I could barely tell you my name at the time because it took me a minute. Honest to God, the first thing I remember was it taking me a minute for my eyes to focus and for me to remember that my granny was my granny. And me, my mama, and my granny all have the same damn face. There was a split second where I thought legitimately I was dead and that I was looking at me. Like, I thought that I was like above looking at me. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like, why am I looking at me? Like I said, head contusion, anesthesia. I didn't fucking know. But they had me in a damn hallway. I never went into a room. They gave me a few IVs, told me to schedule an appointment with my neurologist and sent me home.
They did the same thing to me the first time when I went to the emergency room. Remember? They had me sitting in the hallway the whole time.
Just made a good point. Let me read her first comment before we get to the one I highlighted. She says, I am Mediterranean. I'm definitely North African. She said, I am not Anglo-Saxon. The U.S. government made us white. Say that. Say that right there. Because there is a woman I've been going back and forth with in a friend's comment section that was like, well, you're acting like white people created racism. You did.
You did.
And then she said, the I slur for indigenous / native people. I'm not going to say that because we're not going to do that. Y'all know what the I slur is. And I said, yes, there were native people who did own slaves. There were also native people who gave refuge to slaves, but they still didn't create the concept of race or racism. And then she said, well, where did the slave owners get slaves from? I said the Portuguese until they started pirating Portuguese ships. History is not hard to learn. History is not hard to learn.
It's out there. It's out there.
Go ahead.
So I think it's the same person I was going back and forth with the conversation. Girl had the nerve to call me uneducated. I said, oh no. See, what we're not going to do is tell me that I'm uneducated, sweetness. I have my degrees, thank you very much. And one may be in music, but I did do the history work because that's what I love to do. I do love history like that. And I had to dig. She's just like, well, you need to broaden your horizons. I was like, sweetie, my horizons have already been broadened. You need to get yourself together because don't sit here and argue with me about your shenanigans because I have no time for it. They're going to tell me she's a part of the community. No offense. And I mean this with every ounce of my being. No offense to our allies or to the people in the community who are white passing, but please do not come out your neck wrong to me, because I will literally block you and move on. Because I'm not gonna sit here and hold your hand and coddle your feelings and pat you on the head and give you a kiss on your forehead and give you a gold star at the end of the day. I'm not doing it.
I'm tired of these daughters of the Confederacy University graduates. I just cannot. But that is our time for tonight. Thank you, my wonderful, wonderful guests, my wonderful, handsome, beautiful cousins. Thank you. And today is Thursday. Sorry, all my days.
Yeah, today is
blended together. Okay, so join us tomorrow for Freeform Fridays, which don't ask me what we're gonna do because I never know. And generally I lose control of the panel because DMAC. Wait a minute, where is he at? DMAC. likes to mess with me and take over. So if you all like that sort of thing, join in. But as always,
Tomorrow.
each one teach one, each one reach one. See you all tomorrow.